The Future of Defense Task Force says the Defense Department needs a Manhattan Project for artificial intelligence, but the department may be thinking about AI the wrong way. Bryan Clark is senior fellow at the Hudson Institute. He's former special assistant to the Chief of Naval Operations, former director of the CNO's Commanders Action Group, and he and his colleague Dan Patt are writing about AI in breaking defense. Bryan, welcome. Thanks for coming on the program. You and Dan write this. Recently, the JAIC changed course, the Joint Artificial Intelligence Committee changed course and announced a series of moves that break with the flawed AI is a thing paradigm. What's the AI is a thing paradigm, and why is it flawed, Bryan?
Well, thanks for having me on, Francis. It's great to see you again and great to be on the program. So what we've seen in the Department of Defense is a trend towards treating AI as a system or as a technology that you buy and that you have somebody go develop in a single organization like a naval reactors or like the Manhattan Project, where you can develop it as a thing. The problem is AI is really just a technique. It's a information processing methodology that uses artificial intelligence as an algorithm to allow a system to analyze the situation and then make decisions, predictions, inform you about what the potential outcomes might be. So it's a technique and it's not a thing. And the idea of a Manhattan Project is probably a flawed approach to take to buying something that's really a methodology rather than an object.
So the headline to your piece is treat AI as intelligence, not technology. Are you referring to intelligence as brain power, as knowledge, or are you referring to it as intelligence as in the intelligence community?
No, we're talking about intelligence as brain power. So the idea is artificial intelligence in multiple forms is able to provide you the same kind of capabilities as a human might, but in a very narrow form. So AI that helps you with image recognition, for example, might be doing equivalent to what an image analyst might do in the intelligence world or on a ship or in an airplane. But the AI is able to do it. That's its only function. That narrow AI is performing that one function of image or pattern recognition, which is something that a human could also do. A human can obviously do much more because a human has natural intelligence, which allows us to do complicated reasoning, which maybe an AI can't do. But the idea is to start treating AI as a form of intelligence like you would treat the subordinates on your military team, for example. So I've got a military team member who's focused on image recognition and pattern recognition. I've got a team member who's in charge of coming up with courses of action and doing planning. Like kind of AI algorithms that are doing a similar thing, as opposed to the human that can do multiple things, the AI algorithm is only doing one of those tasks at a time.
And the oh wow moment for me in reading this piece, Bryan, was when I got down to about paragraph 5, and if anything, you and Dan understated it. You write, the recent dogfighting victory of an AI agent against a fighter weapons school graduate suggests AI will profoundly affect military operations. It wasn't just a win. The algo beat the pilot 5-0 convincingly. What does that say about the progression that you're suggesting that we should take?
So what it suggests is that the pilot's the best use of a pilot, for example, may not be in trying to maneuver the airplane to outmaneuver another airplane. That might be something that's a form of narrow intelligence that might be better shifted to what an AI algorithm could do. Whereas the pilot's best purpose might be to do the higher reasoning that pulls together what's happening in the world and comes up with a creative solution to kind of what's the next thing they're going to do to be able to have victory in this operational scenario, rather than having them bogged down in the nuts and bolts of trying to maneuver the aircraft to achieve an advantageous position relative to their adversary. So that's again this idea of thinking of AI as a form of intelligence rather than as a replacement for a human.
So I like that phrase, victory in this operational scenario. In the operational scenario 6 months from now or 2 years from now, the adversary's AI is going to grow and evolve. And this turns into an AI race, which it strikes me supports the idea that the argument that you're making that this is a technique and not a technology.
Yeah, and what it argues for is that we should be thinking about the fact that the AI is now proliferated widely throughout the military and commercial world. This is not some new technology that we have to do a Manhattan Project to harness. This technology is widely distributed. We have them in our phones. We have AI technologies that are being used in commercial aircraft industry to do a performance-based maintenance of aircraft. So we see AI having already been proliferated. It's here, and now the idea is how do we best leverage it for the task that it's suited for. So it's this idea of treating it as a member of your team rather than treating it as a new technology that you're going to get a box for and put into your aircraft.
So I'll take your rhetorical question and make it an actual question. How do we do that, Bryan? If a Manhattan Project approach is not the right approach, what is the right approach?
So if we think about the fact that AI is now widely proliferated, there's a lot of research and development going on in it. What the National Security Committee for Artificial Intelligence found essentially is that those R&D efforts aren't really transitioning into operationally useful applications very quickly. So what we really need is some better way to transition AI research and development algorithms into military systems. One part of this is the paradigm of thinking as AI as a form of intelligence, as a member of your watch team, rather than thinking of it as a technology. The other part of it is coming up with organizations or organizational changes that allow these R&D efforts to transition into an acquisition system. It's a similar problem to we have with other technologies that are having difficulty making it across that valley of death between research and development and into acquisition. So if we come up with a program executive office that's focused on AI, for example, they could be making sure that these AI algorithms are transitioning into systems. What the JAIC has done is a great approach where they think of AI as a service. And instead of contracting for an object that has to transition into an acquisition program, they are acquiring AI services that they're going to incorporate into the software of a program and just have that be a living, breathing part of that system as it continues to evolve.
Bryan Clark, a great conversation. Terrific to have you back on the program. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Francis. It's great to be on.